particularly in the study of macroeconomics, I like to look around at what's going on in our economy and our society today and talk about the economics of the situations, both the efficiency issues and the equity issues in should we raise the minimum wage, for example. When we do that, when we talk about contemporary events, we have to recognize the environment we're working in and recognize that politics is a definite and important element of that. And when we color some of our conversations in economics with a background of politics, we want to be careful on our terminology. So what I've got here right now is a kind of a brief model, not a complete model, but a point of beginning that says, how do we distinguish the difference between what we in the United States call conservatives versus liberals? That tends to be the terminology, right? So what is the difference between a conservative and a liberal? And this is not a joke, okay? I'm sure there are plenty of them. Here's one way to look at it. Some people tend to value economic freedoms very, very, very much. Economic freedoms would mean the right to do with your money as you choose, rather than having the government confiscate a significant part of it to decide what to do with it. Economic freedoms might include the right to operate your business your way, to hire who you want to hire, to fire who you want to fire, to produce whatever kind of product you want with whatever production process you think is best. Economic freedoms might include the right to the private ownership and use of your property and to use it as you choose. Okay? Economic freedoms in the sense of choosing what to do with your resources as you see fit. Another alternative sort of freedom to discuss would be personal freedoms. Personal freedoms would include things like the right to free speech, perhaps the right to abortion, you might claim as a personal freedom, or the right to vote, the right to burn the flag as a statement of your feelings, the right to sing whatever music you want, to play your music as loud as you want, the right to maintain your house and yard or not and let it deteriorate if you want. Maybe that's an economic freedom. Okay? Personal freedoms, the right to go where you want. Personal freedoms, the right to read or write the literature you want, the right to view the movies you want, whether they are good quality, poor quality, whether they're great little Bambi cartoons or pornographic material. That would be a personal freedom that you're allowed to choose anything you want in that regard, to make the kind of movie you want. Now, let's look at the possibilities. If you favor very strongly economic freedoms, but you see problems in the abuse of personal freedoms, you say that the right to abortion is a travesty against your religion. You say that the right to burn the flag is a very unpatriotic act and ought not be allowed. So you're willing to accept limitations on personal freedoms, but you want the maximum possible economic freedoms. That would put you down here, let's call it point A. And by our definitions, that would label you as a conservative. Alternatively, if you are willing to accept limitations on economic freedoms, we tax businesses, we regulate businesses, we regulate the environmental impact of businesses, we make them pay certain minimum wages at the minimum, we disallow their right to discriminate against people on race, religion, gender, age basis, especially age, right? When you're willing to accept restrictions on their economic freedoms, but you advocate for maximum possible or more and more individual personal freedoms, that puts you up here somewhere. Let's get another color. That puts you up here at point B, and we would call you a liberal. All right? So there's where we're going to kind of draw the fundamental difference between the two. There is contradiction in that in the United States, by the way, and that is that liberals tend to favor restrictions on gun ownership, and conservatives tend to favor a lot of freedom in gun ownership. So it's not an absolutely black and white, easy to use model. There are some contradictions occasionally. Let's take the other point way out here. This would be a person who advocates maximum economic freedoms and maximum personal freedoms taken to an extreme. They would locate somewhere out here, position C, and we will call them libertarians. They're not wanting to see restrictions on their freedoms of any type to the maximum or reasonable extent possible. So this identifies three different belief groups, if you will, philosophical positions. And then finally, we got to ask, what about the people out in here? I mean, where are you on this chart? Are you a liberal? By the way, they sometimes like to call themselves progressives, in case you hear that term, okay? Or are you a libertarian, or are you more conservative in your views? But what about these folks out here? I mean, this person up here is more liberal, but a little bit conservative. This person down here is more conservative, but a little bit liberal. And this person out here is, he's not an extreme libertarian, but he's kind of in the middle. Is this composed of people who just don't know what they like, don't know what they feel? No, this is composed of people we generally call moderates. They believe in some limitations, and basically, every time I bring an issue up, you may find yourself moving around a bit. You may be a liberal on one issue and a conservative on another, etc. Most folks find themselves somewhere around here in the middle, and what does that mean for politicians? It means you can get the vote from your extreme side, maybe in the preliminary elections, if you will, but when it comes down to where everybody votes, these folks are the ones that tend to swing the elections one way or the other. And so you've got to position yourselves, typically, to accommodate the view of the moderates. We'll talk more about politics in class and use examples from contemporary happenings, but please be comfortable with the idea that there's nothing discriminatory meant or pejorative about liberals or conservatives or libertarians. We're not saying anything good or bad about any of them. We're just saying, in the positive economic sense, this is more or less the way we contrast them. All right? Thank you.